Yep.
Yeah, I'm.
So good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to meet back Chetan from his thesis to what he's been doing now with Hampi. It's pretty fascinating. He's always interested in making new things happen, and glad that we got a chance to talk about this. Right. Um, Sindhu and me met in college, as Chetan already exposed. We are a student of architecture. And not only that, we started, we were dreamers, like, hey, design is everywhere. We can design everything. But life pulled, and we said, let's get a job. I interned at Chandavarkar and Thakur under Sanjay Mohe.
And I was with Alex Jacob.
Yep. And soon, we wrote some exams and we got a master's degree together. It was a very unusual thing to happen, both getting into the same college. So we got involved a lot more into design and a lot more into life. So we dated for some time and then we later got married, right? But because we kind of got into job, it took us into different places. I was teaching at IIT Bombay for product design, while Sindhu was working with Semantic and Digite. These are interaction design. She was doing interaction design with those companies. I started a course long ago in IIT called as a game design elective with Professor Uday Atwankar. It was like with a casual conversation. We can say that if you do design, if you do game design, it kind of exposes to the world of interactions a lot better. Components, visual design, graphics in a more deeper sense. And it also gets us thinking about mechanics of the game and things like that. So I started this course, but very soon, after 2 years, I left IIT because I got interested in the new thing which was happening, which was the internet. So I joined Yahoo as a researcher, design research. I opened up a lab there called as Yahoo UX Labs. Those were the first labs in Yahoo. Conducted around 80, 90 research at Yahoo using eye tracker, the most advanced instruments to really understand how people use internet. So that's all I was spending time on. I wrote papers around that, and it kind of published research inside Yahoo to really understand how people play cricket, how people use mobile phones, how people end up connecting with each other on Facebook or an email or a chat or all kinds of stuff like that. So this is where I was doing while Sindhu.
So we returned back to Bangalore, and then I was like, it's 3 years into doing UX. I said, no, this is not what I want to do. I want to start our own studio, and we were back in Bangalore, started Tacit, and I continue to run it till today. Kiran had many other journeys.
Right. So I used to get interested in any small product design. So Let's Venture is a company which asked me to design their app. I went and designed their mobile app and their platform. And then I joined InMobi. And then currently I work with PayPal. I head UX for 3 main product pieces inside PayPal, which is called Activity, Profile, and the REM, which is called as a rapidly emerging market. So I have a team of designers at PayPal. My daily job is to have a stand-up with them, give some strategic input on what kind of design they've been working on, position them, and then for great delivery, and then work on wireframes and work on design with them, and then sort of get executed with product and engineering partners. That's what I'm doing right now. So while we started doing this, we got immersed in jobs, doing design research, startups, odd jobs, children. We had 2 kids, son and a daughter. So my son's name is Samartha and daughter's is Purvi. They are 9 and 6 and naughty. Right now, we are all kind of immersed in jobs. So suddenly we thought, it's high time we should do something interesting, right? So one fine day, we met one of our friends, Srini. He works out of Singapore. He's with investment banking mostly, suggesting how mostly how investments needs to be made. And then he and all of us sat together and we said, why can't we make puzzles? So what is a simple thing? We started Puzzle Desh. We partnered each other and opened a company called Puzzle Desh. And then we put some money, we invested, and then started designing. So me and Sindhu were part of product design and development and manufacturing part of it. And Srini helped us with marketing, setting up businesses, and reaching out to other countries and things like that.
The legal part.
On the legal and things like that. So it was a fantastic, one of the most amazing meetups we had. It all happened in a coffee shop, obviously, right? All of us as founders were captivated with our traditional art. We were super amazed and by the level of stories and the depth of stories which are connected with the myth and the mythology and so many other stories connected to our past. And these stories are everyday talk at homes, and they get represented visually. And it was captivating for us. It intrigued us and made us curious about archetypes.
Yeah.
So what we were suddenly interested in what we call as archetypes, original pattern from our lands, and why do people paint, why do cultures have this kind of painting, and very quickly.
Yeah, why do they paint the way they do in terms of.
Yeah. And how does culture really take it? So these were visuals. We started moving around, meeting traditional artists, trying to understand their lives, how much of it came from their forefathers, how much of it was learned with the language, how much of it were like where they had problems in selling, how is that they were positioning it today, and what happens with that life, and how do they get involved in it, and what kind of sensitivities they gather as creators of this painting. So these are Gonda art, these are traditional Tanjore art, Mysore art, Kalamkari art, all of Patachitra from Orissa. So we started getting involved with artists.
All types of painting styles and trying to understand its language.
Yep. So what we thought was, since we had kind of understood, we kind of worked with artists, immersed with them, and we bought their paintings. And we thought, let's make a puzzle out of it.
Yeah, basically all these paintings were trying to tell a story or communicate or transfer some kind of knowledge or a story which probably connects to people at various levels, whether a child or to an old grandmother. So each one's understanding was different in each of these paintings, basically. So,
right. Nobody can touch the depth of an art and an artist, and it's a very personal experience. And most of these art, which are traditional, are also communication pieces, which you can find them in temples, in the manuscripts of royals and inside the palaces, which have come over a period of time. But the thing is, people connect with them only when they go to these temples or when they visit these places. Some of them started buying because of the whole new monetary condition, something called as money. Earlier, long time ago, this used to come from tradition to tradition. So we thought we are in a modern system. If we make a puzzle, will the same connection happen or not? It's also like an experiment. Okay, I make a puzzle out of it. Do people really still associate with it? In fact, this was a kind of a question we were asking. And if people connect with the image, which is the rupa, which is the image itself, which is a very strong idea inside our Indian tradition, the image of the god, the image of the story, the image of the calf, the image of the Radha, the image of these stories, right? So if people are able to connect to it, will they enjoy it? Will they enjoy the same way would they enjoy looking into a painting or maybe something more? So these were the questions we were kind of intrigued with. So we started making puzzles.
Yeah, and also when we get into a product design process as designers, we tend to want to do a lot of very new things, basically. So Srini would always hold the thing saying that, yes, okay, we'll do great things, but let's do things which are also simple, because he, from a user perspective, wanted to have more simple games, basically. So we started off doing puzzles.
Yeah. So everybody knows puzzles. It's a 100-year-old product. There's nothing new about it. So we just made a 60-piece and a 500-piece. But what we thought was like yesterday I got a call from a lady who is an old lady, and she just finished her 500-piece puzzles. She said that It was such an interesting. She was probably in the 60s or 70s and 70s, and she said that I don't know if you understand Kannada. Nodamma, I kind of was completely devoted till I finished making the image of the god, the last piece, yeah. Right? So these are the user experiences which started pouring in. So these are the kind of products we designed. We started getting the stories of Ganesha, Krishna, and Krishna in the war, and also the other arts, which is the art Madhubani and other arts, right? So these are stories of Ganesha.
So basically, So basically, we zeroed in on after looking at a lot of things and the availability of stories and stuff. We've zeroed in on Orissa Patachitra, the one that you see on the last left. And then the other style was Tanjore, which most of us are familiar of, which is on the right of my screen to my side. And then in between, and then the second from the right is the Madhubani art.
Right. Yeah. So very quickly, interestingly, we started getting WhatsApp messages, right? So this is something called as a product market fit. It's very hard to make a product liked by people. People have 1 million choices even before they buy. And if somebody starts taking your product, which is called as a return buy, it means that people buy once and they love it and they start buying it again. We started seeing this happening as a trend when we started, pushing around this product with people. They say that the stories made them happy. They're super glad. And they said that they started showing off that they completed the puzzle. And they started telling that we did that with our people at home.
It's a great family activity.
It was a family activity. I could spend a lot of time with my boys. You could see that, and I have to still yet open. It's like a challenge for me. I love the 500 because I can still spend more time with my boys. And then if you look at it, like they love the concept that it talks about the story of Indian paintings and inside a jigsaw puzzle, and also using a recycled material. And also, so this started encouraging us that this is the reason why we started developing it. You could see that this is like cool, and how do you make, can I get more? Where are the manufacturers? Where do I get it done? Lots of questions. And there is no end to it. So every day we spend almost half an hour, 1 hour answering WhatsApp to all our customers, right? So this is what, Chetan, are you still with us? Hello?
Yeah, we're all able to hear you.
All right, thanks. Thanks for making it alive. This is where we started getting a lot of inquiries too, right? So then we thought, okay, let's now make this interesting. What about designing board games? India has always been kind of culture of playing chess, Ludo. India invented, in fact, Ludo, chess, long time ago. And in tradition, it was passed on in some section of society. And not only that, you could see these games in every temples and in every household, which is there happening all along. If I go back to 18th century village, people played board games in village for a long period of time. They were agrarian, they had time, and they started thinking more. Like the way they started writing literature, they started creating games, and it also passed on as a tradition from family to family. So we had a great culture. We invented, in fact, one of the finest board games like chess and like Ludo and like Snake and Ladders. All of them were invented in India. And what is happening with the board game scenes today is that it is completely taken over by European board games, which are called as the German board games, and the American games, right? So they have created a huge market for board games. And we thought, no, India's not done much. So let's go back and understand. I went and got a lot of Europe. I traveled around Europe. I traveled around US. I started collecting board games. Then I started seeing how are these games like Settlers of Catan, or it could be Carcassonne. These are very famous board games, German board games. How are they engaging people? Why is a German board game like Carcassonne or Settlers, how is it different from an American war game, right? So I started deeply involving into the game systems which are already there and how it went into into the software gaming, which is like gaming systems. So things like that, and I started immersing into board game designs. So what we thought is, let's make some quick prototype. Sindhu has a skill set with graphic and visual communication. I can design games, so why can't we sit and make games? So today we thought we would just take you to a quick journey of how we make games. Hopefully it will interest you, and then I can take all the questions. So you can see here, this is one of the games which have been designed called Kalpa rickshaw. You can see the rule book on the top. These are all the cards involved, and you can see my daughter playing it. Making a tree out of that with cards. This is called as a prototype. I'll just quickly tell us what we do, how the product gets designed, right? We wanted to design games which are new, completely new, yet connected to tradition, better than the Euro games, and which tell stories of our land, and it should spark some excitement, right? And also connect us with each other. So I don't know what this is, like ambitious set of goals I want to put for myself, but what does it really look like? So it might look like a set of cubes that can set off places in a fort, or hexagonal grids, or it could be people, or it could be like a tree, which is like which we want to kind of associate with, which is like a tree which is of progress, of something which is mystery. So I started literally going around and reading history, and then I started making games which were of certain mystery, with probably there are like gaps in history where like it's funny and it's like something which people want to know and explore. They might end up becoming political. They might end up becoming, historical in a sense, which gives historical context. And also they might end up, giving some fun while we play, right? So we wanted to explore this area, and now we have been working on these kind of games for a while. These are all prototypes. So we wanted to make sure that the games have rich stories in them, and they should be visually rich. They should be dexterity based. Fingers and mind and hand, they are the ones which bring sensitivity, and not the analytical part of the brain. We wanted them to be dexterous in nature, and it should actually open up to a new story. In fact, it's actually a tribute to our aunts, mothers, and grandmothers who connected us to the tradition of stories and play at home. I remember my aunt coming and giving me a pack of cards and making me tell that I'll challenge you on a game of a card. And I learned it very quickly. And my first game, in fact, of cards was with my aunt. It was not my fathers or uncles. It was the mothers at home who played chess with us, and who are the ones who exposed us to this beautiful world of games, where we kind of spent and kept on understanding what is the scoring, what is adding, what is losing, what is being together, what is cooperative games. What if I help each other, will we win each other? What is the point of destruction? It opens up a whole world of questions for kids, not only kids, for adults, right? So in fact, these are the ones which are inspiring for us. It's a tribute to all our ladies at home, and we kind of design with them. So my aunt and my mother are here at home. I have designed a new game. I'm testing with them. They are the ones who tell whether the game is good or bad.
Yeah, actually, you don't have to tell, because the entire house is squealing with.
Yeah. If they're bored, they look at my face, and if they're very happy, they shout. It's as simple as that. If they shout, it means the game is great. If they are bored, I'm going to check that design into the dustbin. Simple as that. So that's all is our quality check. I live with them. They live with us. We design with them. If they all like it, I'm sure all other ladies like it. So that's the kind of a process we follow right now.
Even children too. So
yeah. So a couple of questions. So when we started designing games, a lot of questions come to mind. We just looked into our own FAQs. Ideas can come from anywhere. And while we travel, on the top left, we went to a place in Dharwad in a village, and then we found out that the village was working in a certain way. The person who created that house had gone to an elder's place to create that house, and he wanted to connect to the Haldi house, and he designed that house himself. And then he kind of had his own set of activities of creating permaculture ecosystem around his house. Okay, now we want to design a game around that, right? And these, if you look at it, these are textures. In fact, it's the mat, the floor mat, which gives an enormous amount of information about how much it's being used, how much of it is survived, and how much of it is destroyed. So it's an amazing kind of a visual to look into what a cluster is and why some clusters get destroyed and why some clusters survive. And that's a game idea for me, right? And these are the shells. On the next one are the shells of, actually these are egg shells. And if you put those egg and if you break the egg and put them into pieces, and this is how the kind of pattern we get. So I don't know. So the ideas can come from flowers. It can come from temples. It can come from anywhere. It can come from notes I write to my kids. And it can come from the cloud patterns and wherever you can think of, right? So a few more inspirations. It can come from reading. I read a lot, and then I kind of go through. I like reading texts which are actionable, where there is a pure documentation of how things was created, a pure documentation of how people responded for those kind of creations. So things like that. Game design ideas can come from there. It can come from pizza. So we designed a game called as The Fraction, where we kind of start talking about how pizza gets consumed at home. Or it can come from building. So I just make quick prototypes of points of painting, color combinations, and these are sketches from kids. I really take care of kids' sketches because of one of the freshest places where you get most amazing ideas for characters, for connections and stuff like that. So not only that, this is like something like you need to get all the knowledge and completely from all the places in the world. Today we are connected to the internet. There are fantastic resources. There's something called Board Game Geeks, where it's an enormous amount of resources on how to build games, how to design games. On the right side, there's YouTube channels where new games are published every day. Last year alone, 3,000 games were designed and invented in just the Euro and the US zone alone. And this wave has not started in India. And we want to be one of the first players in India to have one of the most fantastic games designed for India, for the people of India, and all the stories related to India. There are Facebook groups on board game design, Kickstarters, a lot of resources on Kickstarter, how to invest and how to start a fund for your games, right? And then there are tabletop simulators where you can create your own games and get it tested across the world. So there are millions of resources. Ping me. I'll leave my email. If you want anybody who's interested to design games, just ping me. I can sort of share all my links which we have, right? So that's what I spend a lot of time on. What I do is quickly make a prototype. It doesn't take much time. It could not be perfect. It could be dirty. It could be simple. These are just quick prototypes we kind of made using just Photoshop and Illustrator, and just get it printed on a film board and just cut it inside at home, and you just have a game. And not only that, I keep on making prototypes. I churn out a prototype a week. So what is a prototype? A prototype is actually a shape of a game which is yet to be finished, but it is open for feedback, open for potential, improvisation, right? So it's one of my approach is to make it first and then think about it, not think and make. You will never be able to make anything if you start thinking. So what I do is I start making without any thinking at all, brainstorm, I go wide, I go deep, I go crazy, and I keep on making patterns continuously. And of course, game design is very addictive. So I hardly sleep. We kind of now started our sleep patterns at 2-3 in the night because we keep making these prototypes almost on a daily basis, right? So these are some of the prototypes which we are like kind of doing. what I do is quickly, as soon as I make prototype, I just ping on my inner circle, my relatives, my friends, my community, my people who are buying my products. I playtest. Without playtesting, there is no improvisation on game design. Games can be boring. They can be stupid. They can be like, they can be as boring as like I don't want to even buy. And if I make one bad game, nobody buys my next game. So I need to make sure that I playtest. And my first prototype is always an embarrassment. It's something like where it inspires me to rebuild. It's not exciting at all. And I keep asking, why is it not exciting? Oh, the story is not coming up. The gameplay, there is some problem in scoring. There is some problem in the way people are unable to understand my tiles. People are unable to enjoy the dome which I've designed. People are unable to appreciate the visuals which are coming onto the thing because they're getting more involved in scoring than my visuals. So I want to like, this is how I create the balance, reduce the scoring part and let them enjoy the visual. So there are a million parts in game design. I'll soon start. I don't want to cover all of it. It's a 1-year-old course. It takes a course by itself. But this is what we do. We quickly go to people and then start testing, right? Then we need to get to know who will buy your creation. It's very important. This game design, I design games for my kids, but when I make professional games, we need to know who are the people who are going to buy. It will not be geeks. It'll be probably my puzzles were bought by mothers at home, by aunts at home, by grandmothers at home, by teenager girls at home, and no boys. No boys were really interested. But the boys got introduced through their parents or through the aunts or through mothers. So not that they're not getting introduced, but the route is that I'm going to design for mothers. I'm going to design for aunts, right? So
that's your buyer.
That's my buyer persona. So who I need to study my market. I need to talk to people. I need to talk to people who like your game. That's what I do on WhatsApp. I even take calls and also check if others have already designed it. I'm a part of a whole community of designers in India where others are also designing. So we keep sharing a lot of material. If I come up with a new name, if I come up with a new design, I keep sharing it as early as possible so that others don't copy, right? So that you're into the game a lot more faster, right? So a game design is actually, it's a combination of 4 things, basically. The elements or the medium or the elements and the medium. What are elements? It could be puzzle, it could be dice, it could be components like cards, it could be treasure points, it could be meeple points, it could be pawns, it could be all of these things which make up the elements, or it could be the board and the tiles and things like that, right? Now, when they go onto a computer, it becomes into a software game. And not only that, it's just one part, these one elements of the game. The second is the player himself. Who is playing? Is it the child who is playing? Then we should have the stories which are related to the child. Is it the lady who is playing, who is teenager? Then why would she want to play, things like dungeon or something to do with war? And, what is the story? So the player defines the experience, right? And the story defines the experience too. So if a player is interested in a story, I need to come up with a story which interests my user, my player, and all of them kind of interact with each other. The elements actually should have components of story. The story should have the components of elements, right? And at the core of it, we have something called as the engine. The engine is the one which is a set of rules or mechanics where it sets you into the play. Like when you start a car, you need to switch on the car and the engine starts because there are mechanisms to start the engine. After that, you can actually put on your accelerator and you can use the brakes. So there's a system of mechanics which is involved to start a game. If the starter is wrong, if the mechanics is wrong, then there is no game. So if in the snake and ladder, if somebody doesn't come down, if he just goes up, it doesn't become a game. So it's a very simple mechanic of moving between the positions you have in a certain way for the dice count you get. So a mechanics is itself, it's like I have theory books which are over around 6,000 to 8,000 pages on how to create mechanics. I don't mind taking a course on that. It's a year course by itself. How do you design games with the most balanced mechanics, right? So these are the four things which I completely focus on. I look into the emotions of player. I look into the story. I look into the elements. What are they doing? I reduce the elements. I destroy them. I recreate them. And then I work out into the rules, the characters, the pointing, the tile structure, stuff like that. So you improvise, you reimagine, you reconfigure, and you keep building. That's what is designing. It's very iterative in nature, right? And then you basically subtract. We over create all the time. So what happens is when we create, we basically put more salt, more pepper, we put unnecessary elements, and subtracting is the most important design process we follow. We remove bulk to make it elegant, make it simple, playtest with the most best game testers in India. So not only with ladies, not only with our audience, but try to work with the best game testers. I have people in Bombay where I send the whole rule book. I also send my components. They download it, they play test it, and they give a rating, tell you this is sad, this is terrible, or this is great, or I like these parts in in this stuff. So there's a sort of a critique which happens. So subtraction is the most and one of the most important design process we follow. And you need to learn how to write a rule book. Nobody reads it, but it's for yourself. If you don't have a rule book, then you don't have a game. So because rule book defines the shape of the game, it defines the mechanics, it defines what starts, what ends, what builds, what fails, what reduces, what increases. All this gets defined by the rule book, and there is an art of writing the rule book by itself, right? So that's where we kind of it, and then we kind of brainstorm into who do players want to be when they want to get into the game. What does it really mean? It means that we're almost there. I want to take the next 5 minutes to finish this, and I'm open out for questions. So we're almost trying to see the time here, right? And we want to imagine if you become a cop, what do you do? If you become a banker, what do you do in the game? If you become a foodie, what do you become like? So these are personas which get created. So I've created games where somebody becomes a mantri. He becomes into a forest monk who can walk into the forest and then save a forest by building trees, right? And you can become into an art critic, telling that this art is interesting, it is subtle, or it expresses something, and you can be and you can still store games. So
these are all different kinds of game personas.
Personas
right? For different kinds of games.
And it gets created while the game gets created. So we want you to become into somebody. So it's mithya, it's all lie, it's all fiction. Nothing is truthful here. It's all about how you create the fiction and how do you become a role player in it. What kind of a role do you take, right? So the four main principles we kind of focus on is balance, control. Balance of the game itself is the game skewing more towards scoring, more towards destruction, more towards eating up people, which is sad, or is it more towards cooperation? It's more towards eating up plus cooperation. What is happening in the game? So there is something called as a mechanic balance. So we work on those balance to tell, hey, people are just getting killed unnecessarily. It's a stupid game. So we go back and then work on the balance part of it. We look into the control. What kind of controls do player get? Can he place a tile? Can he also place an item on the top? Can he score? Can he get immediate points? Can he also work with other? Can he also have a teammate? Or can he also assign somebody from his team? I don't know. So all kinds of controls are possible. We kind of design that consciously. Replayability. Once we designed a game yesterday and we just leave it on the table. If people come back to play it again, it means it's a good game. So we design the game, leave it on the table, and just go away. People, if they finish the game, they want to come back and they want to challenge them again. Then it's you're designing for replayability. We work something on the flow of the game. These are all theories and what kind of emotional marks does this game really work? So we find that our games are successful only when people scream. So you can see a set of people here. I was testing a game called A Game of Silence with these are people, my friends in US. I take my games everywhere. I sit with them in any place, any kind of lounge, any restaurants, wherever I find, open up a small game if they get interested. So these are my colleagues in US. They are from Sweden and they love this game. So they said they wanted to play this whole night. It's a set of cards based on paintings of Malevich, who started Suprematism. where Zaha Hadid is actually a big fan of supermatism. So now I'm talking about architecture. But yeah, so Zaha Hadid is like big fan of supermatism, and she based all her compositions on Malevich's painting. So I read Malevich and then understood like why is he great? Why did he make the black square? And then I created a game out of it. And the Swedish people related to Malevich and the Russian constructivism, and they started loving it. But anybody in India didn't get it at all. So I've just kept it that I'm going to release this game not in India.
Except our daughter who loves the game.
Yeah, my daughter loves it because it has some simple patterns on it and stuff like that, right? So, and as soon as you get bored and you start reading the rule book for a long time, it's a bad game. If people shout, it's a good game. Simple as that. And I document meticulously the process. You can see here, every game has a status called as P2, T2, M1, talks with manufacturers, talk with testing, talks with product development. It's a whole process by itself. I just wanted to give you a snapshot of all the documentation which happens. And after all this, we get to chance to design on the aesthetics of it, on how it looks, and how to bring in the story. So this is a game we are designing called as the Mantri of Hampi. Maybe folks in Hampi might get interested. It's a game about building a landscape of Hampi with temples, with stones, with villages, with roads. And when they build it, the people around, the setup is in 15th century or probably 14th century when there is a prosperity in this place and people are getting bored because everything is prosperous. So it's a funny take on elections on India, where long time ago, 600 years ago, somewhere in Hampi, people, the king got bored and he said that I want a new mantri who is elected by people. And you build the game in such a way that you started gathering, election, basically the votes. And there are 3 elections which happen in the game. Each election time is for around 30 minutes where you place the tiles, and it's 1.5 hour game where every 30 minutes there is an election.
And train people by building things.
And yeah, it happens by laying out tiles and building Hampi, and you gather oats because you are building some river or a pond or a prosperous place.
You lose votes too.
You lose votes too. It's very moody because election is moody place and it's funny. There's a lot of uncertainty which happens, and it's a game where you become the Mantri of Hampi. This is work in progress. We want to release it in next 3 months. This is a game we are working on called Kalpa. The whole idea is like you have pieces where you can actually build a small tree. If you build it, you need to build the tallest tree. If you build a tall tree, you will save an ancient forest. The ancient forests were referred in Mahabharata. So it starts talking about these forests which happened during Ramayana and Mahabharata and how India was a long time ago. So you are a forest monk who enters this forest and there's something happening. The forest is infected either by evil spirits or by some sort of movement of people, and they are getting affected. So what you do is go build a tree. As soon as you go build a tree, it's a wish-fulfilling tree. You get powers, and basically after you make the tallest tree, the forest gets rejuvenated. So there's another idea we're working on.
So this is based on a story, that an imaginary story.
It's all fiction. Nothing is true here. And then while we start making this, we start talking to the manufacturers. The whole process of manufacturing is optimizing. So the mindset is not creation, it's deduction. So reduce, reuse. Every inch of it costs. So we want to make sure that every pixel or even a millimeter of the page which we design, a sheet in which it gets printed or it gets laser printed or whatever is optimized. So we make sure that the production is like up to the mark. We have all the systems of production. We will brainstorm with the manufacturers, telling them, why do you want to waste the page here? Why can't we reverse it? Can I rework on this image to make it little like, can I reduce it by 2 mm, by 3 mm? We are talking at mm, not even, it's like an mm level talks with the manufacturers, right? And we get the first copies, right? And we quickly put them up. This is my garage. This is where we store. These are all the products which have come after getting shipped from China. And they come and we store them. And from here, we market them. And spreading a word and marketing is another talk by itself. I don't want to get into that. We use all kinds of systems, website, Facebook, Instagram. We are not there yet. And on WhatsApp, of course. So we are trying all kinds of mechanisms, spreading the word to tell people that there are new games. Why don't you try it? And if you like them, you can go and purchase, right? Like you can talk to us and then and enjoy using these games at home. So these are the games. You can check out a couple of these games on tacitgames.in. If you want to buy the games, call us at, you can WhatsApp at 740032929. You can take a screenshot of this, and this is where you get the puzzles right now. The games are work in progress. We are going to release it in a couple of months. And I hope that this process of making games will be of some help. And in fact, that's the end we have on the game design part. Just that we are architects. We felt if you're really interested to see some couple of our architecture works, just let me know. We can quickly do a 2 or 3 slide. Else we can stop here.
Please continue, Kiran. Please do continue.
I'll just take a 2. All right. For us, architecture is completely not what we learned in college. So just to, maybe we have grown old. So when we came out of college, we were taught modern design, very expensive design. There were JISIM and people who were doing alternate architecture, but I never understood what it was. They were talking sustainability. I was never convinced about sustainability, but now I am. So, but it took, I just questioned everything. So architecture is something, we just felt that it has to be simple. And then we one day discovered what we call as archetypes. So I started traveling in India, in villages. Then we found old houses which are very happy, comfortable, where people were happy, where their professions was happening very well. And though there was a movement of modernity, the houses and what I mean by archetype is an original pattern which you can go see in the most old places in your land where others have copied it. It could be a Kattemane in South India, or it could be in Mysore Agrahara Mane, or it could be, there are hundreds of archetypes. And me and Sindhu love documenting archetypes. We have a web page where we kind of document archetypes because they are very happy designs. It's worked over last 2000 years. You don't have to do anything. You just have to copy it and improvise it, put a place to place your fridge or put on off your car, and you don't have to really change the form or shape or anything like that, but improvise. It's like working on a classical music. You don't change the raga. You use the raga to internalize the melody which is being created in that raga. So we kind of shifted our design from making a lot of shapes and designs and all kinds of odd things which was happening in architecture field. I know that there are lots of ideologies in architecture, but we wanted to stick to working on archetypes.
Basically, also architects give a look into the social structure of things, in the sense how all these things, how people were involved in the cycle of design itself, and then how that entire system worked. Because I think all these things are the basis for sustainability.
So in fact, we learned sustainability by archetypes. So archetypes, when you put 5 elements of an old house with its name coming in, like in a traditional house in LA, there are words used to construct a kitchen. There are words used to construct a chimney. There are words used to construct a hall. And if you use the same words, it becomes extremely sustainable. It's like a recipe.
It's like a modular system. It's a system where everybody knows, okay, what is a dimension? How does this work structurally? How it works?
Anyway, archetype is a topic by itself, so we can do it sometime later. But we just want to work on archetypes, use local, reduce built area. Even if our very expensive clients come and ask for a lot of house, we'll tell reduce it by half, be happy. Don't spend so much, it's not required. Work on an archetype and make sure that you have a lot of green spaces. And then we want to create biodiversity hubs in whatever small place we get. It's a chance for us. If it's a 40-60 site, make 4 gardens in it. If it's a 4-acre land, grow a forest in it and reduce all the built area and stuff like that. It's a very simple philosophy we want to follow, right? So we want to design homes that feel like home, where there are elements of home and not too much of modern architecture or whatever. This is based on a certain archetype. kind of a thing, right? These are elements which are kind of getting built over a period of time and things like that, right? So in this small place, we created 3 diversity hubs, a few ecosystem by themselves. There are bees coming in, birds coming in, all kinds of animals pouring in. There is no space for light to come at all, and a lot of other things come, and even snakes and stuff like that. So this is a school we are designing. It's Bangalore Standard School. It's a 4.5-acre place where we have reduced the classroom to a very small extent, and we're going to make a complete forest all around. So there is no, we have bought around 200, 300 trees last week. We planted it. It's a community work. It's done with parents. A lot of community, designing is happening on this. We kind of designed it along with a set of parents. We have designed it along with a set of parent architects, parents, teachers, and contractors, and the village people around it. So we have just designed look like the one more house in the village. It's again an archetype there. So the villagers didn't feel completely odd off. They love it. They come nearby. They ask what's happening. They say it's a small school. They're included and they're inclusive. They want to send their children to this school, but the philosophy school is a bit of a European style. But I think it's going to mix with the kind of design we are like trying to force even the education system to kind of change to Indian style, where things are inclusive, right? And we also try, we love trying alternate materials. These are debris from an old thing. We just got all the debris and we mixed with cement, and these are mud sacks filled with debris and then mud plastered and cemented. We use a little bit of cement. We are not like pure. We don't even call it sustainable. I don't understand sustainable. If I build less and if I use a lot of natural stuff which is happening, reuse it, recycle it, reduce it as much, for me that's sustainability. And we are doing that. Mangrove tiles on the top. This
is still under construction.
This is actually a kindergarten. It's for kids where there are round, completely circular, rooms, and they go round and round and they kind of sing and walk across 3-4 rooms and come out and play in the garden. That's all. This is again, we use tents here, again a school. We installed this in 40 days. So it came with a chance. No architect took this project, so that's why they came to us. We are product designers. They said we want a school in 40 days. Like, what's wrong? I mean, it takes a year to put up a school. So we said, no, we can put up a school in 40 days. Let's go get some army tents. And then we bought some army tents. We paid them. It's actually very cheap. And then put a mud plinth. And we removed the plinth. Now they wanted a temporary structure for 3 years because they wanted to. It was not their permanent site. It is somebody else's site, and we didn't touch anything. We bought mud, and now we removed the cement a bit and removed the mud, and that mud goes back into. There's no foundation. There is nothing. We didn't dig into it.
Yeah, so there was an entire school which was working for 3 years with about 180 kids were running for 3 years with cooking, everything happening inside the campus, and the entire thing was dismantled in just flat 1.5 weeks.
We built it in 40 days. We destroyed it in 1.5 weeks, and people enjoyed it for 3.5 years. And I found this an interesting architectural story, if you want to call it, right? And these are some, this is what everybody likes to design. Nice white space, skylights and stuff like that. Now we are actually bored with this kind of design. We don't like it anymore. This is something anybody can do, and most of run-of-the-mill, a lot of, basically finish and stuff like that. It's very expensive to build houses like this. I don't think we should build houses like this for India, even though clients really want it. We are very critical about it, and we are not taking projects which are these sorts. And that's it.